YouTuber Chibi Reviews was an abuser and cheater according to his ex-girlfriend. Who is Chibi Reviews? Controversy surrounding anime YouTuber explored, and they definitely try to paint me as quite the character by saying I'm an abuser and cheater, kind of negating everything that's been going on with the doxing and harassing. They try to label me as a right-wing extremist, basically, with this article. This article basically does the exact same thing as that article, and I hate that I have to make this video to address this, because I have a lot of evidence to counter everything that's being said here to smear my name once again, but my hand's been forced. It's ironic enough that my ex actually told me not to make the relationship public. She told me in text messages, which I will show, but it's crazy that she couldn't even take her own advice. She labels me as an abuser. She labels me as someone that cheated and all that, when there's a lot of evidence to show she actually is projecting. So let's start with the abuse. This is a message, one of the last messages me and her had back in October, November of 2022. Been over 2 years. To give context here, she calls me a liar because I was playing Elden Ring by myself. I know that's childish. It's crazy, I know. But basically, there's sections in Elden Ring that are solo. This was prior to seamless co-op being added, okay? And basically, I played sections of Elden Ring solo because you have to. That's just how it is. You can't get co-op in some areas. Once again, prior to the mod of seamless co-op. I didn't tell her about it because she always needs to know every single thing I'm doing and gets frustrated if I want to do anything on my own. And I was very anticipating and hyped up for Elden Ring for years, basically. I think everybody was. I mean, it was Game of the Year. Anyways, she gets into an argument with me, saying, Jacob, your actions are the reason I get upset with you. Stop acting like some victim because I call you out on your lies and bullshit, and then you brush aside all the emotional and mental abuse towards me. And as for the instance in the car, I was trying to run away from you because you were having relationships with another girl, and when I was talking to you about my sexual assault, we got into your car, and I said, do you know what it feels like for someone to come at you like this, and put my hand up to your neck to demonstrate. I was not physically assaulting you. I was demonstrating how my attacker took me down. I never physically abused you. I never physically abused you, Jacob. The reason I apologize for that is because I realized that you did know how that you did not know how that feeling, I'm assuming she's meant, you did not know how that feeling felt when someone attacks you. Not because I was attacking you, but because you did understand how it feels. And I still apologize for that interaction, but I was not physically abusing you. You want to say emotional or mental abuse, then sure, I have said very mean things, but I never caused you any physical harm. You have literally dropped a shovel on my head, or a rake it was. Firstly, this is my response. Firstly, it fell on you because when you sat down, to give context, I want to do it. Basically, in my front yard, there was a fire pit, and there was plastic chairs. We were raking leaves and digging a hole or whatever for a fire pit, and I forget if it was a shovel or a rake. But basically, it was put on her chair. She sat down, and when she sat down, it caused the rake or shovel to shift, and then it bumped right in the head. I didn't do it, just literally it moved and hit her head. Obviously, I did what you're supposed to do. I comforted her. I was like, are you okay? Do I need to take you to the doctor? Do you have a concussion? All that type of stuff. But basically, she blamed me, saying, obviously, I hit her in the head with it. And you can see I refute that right here. He's like, and then she's like, you are right about the galaxies. I was stubborn about that. I apologize for that. This goes to show just how crazy and toxic the relationship was. The reason why galaxies are randomly being brought up here is that prior to this, like a few days later, or earlier, before all this went down, she was arguing with me about galaxies and how, like, one of the main galaxies are galaxies going around a supermassive black hole. Basically. And she was saying, nah, that's not real, that's not true, or whatever, and I showed her articles, she didn't want to believe it. It was something along the lines of that, and then she argued with me, and then ghosted me, basically, for days, and then it led to this situation right here. Once again, you can see how toxic the relationship got. Anyways, continuing the conversation, she says, you're right about the galaxies. And I responded, also, stop trying to act like putting your hands on my neck is okay and justified when you got upset over me replying to comments on Twitter. So, to kind of explain what I mean here is, she accuses me of cheating and talking with another woman here and all that. But what happened was, is I replied to a Twitter post, which was, you know, this post actually I'm going to show right here. I was replying to this, which was basically me just, talking about this. I'll give, actually, I should give context now. Basically, this person, Vigil right here, he made this post asking, what do I think they are? So I just answered, I have no idea if they're straight, I have no idea if they're single, whatever, and I just did that. It was just a random post I decided to respond on, and my ex basically said, take this down, please, Jacob. She assumed I was talking about it, and here's the evidence that stop putting this relationship public. This is the argument to that whole situation. So, given context, basically, she considered me cheating for talking with anyone on Twitter if they had a female profile picture or whatever. If I was even responding to comments in my YouTube comment section, she would assume it's cheating. That, to give full disclosure there. That's basically what this is. Anyways, continuing the message, you wobbled it and it smacked my eye like always. Now, what she means by always, I don't know how it happened, but most of the time she was clumsy, and sometimes my dog would walk in the bed, and sometimes, she would accidentally step on her face. It happened. She's a small dog, my little Shiba, Casca, but it happened, and I would get blamed for it, basically. That's what she's trying to say. But, yeah, to give full disclosure, I'm not trying to hide anything. That's basically what happened. Anyways, she says, it was not okay, Jacob, but it was not physically abusing you. She's trying to downplay the neck grab she did to me. I'll give an explanation of what she did in a moment. I was just trying to make you understand my experience because you didn't understand me. I just did it in the wrong way because my adrenaline was high from trying to run away from you. The reason why she was trying to run away is because of this, different arguments and stuff of, with the messages talking, responding to people on Twitter and all that. She ran away in the middle of a busy street in, September? Yeah, I think September? October? Somewhere around there. She got in the middle of a busy street and just started running around in the cold and all that with no jacket. And I'm just, obviously, I get out of the car and I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why, it's crazy. It's crazy. Can we agree that that's crazy? Anyways, I'm like, what are you doing? So she was running because of stuff like that, and, she, upon her adrenaline, she does physical harm to me. Now, to explain what she did, she was in the vehicle with me, in my truck, and she was in the passenger side, I was in the driver's seat, okay? She looked at me, yelling at me, screaming at me, and then she did this to my neck and pushed me up against the glass window. I hit my head up against the glass window. Her whole hand was around my neck and, choked me, basically. Obviously, I didn't take a picture of it because I never expected I would be sharing this with anyone online. But the replies alone basically showcase she just admits that she physically abused me, but downplays it to say she didn't physically abuse me. One thing you can really draw to a conclusion here is our relationship was very toxic. I was not perfect, obviously. But she has straight up manipulated and abused me, and there's a lot more manipulation to really talk about, so let's get into that one. So this right here is a continuation of this, basically, her saying I was making our relationship public and all that, when I made this post to someone. Ironically enough, this individual doesn't like me anymore. He actually is a part of the harassers that constantly come after me, but that's irrelevant at the moment. But the point of the matter is that, this individual, I was just replying to them, and she said this, basically saying, stop making this relationship public. And then it spiraled out of control, and it got to this, where she's like, this is all your relationships, this is why all your relationships fell, which is interesting, because it was my first relationship, actually. But, I said, stop trying to stand on a moral high ground, when you literally told me to die alone. She basically said I'm going to die alone, and I confront her about this, as you can see here. She's like, this is why everybody left you, Jacob. I hope there is someone who you can maintain focus on. I really do, but I just don't think you care to. I doubt you feel that way after what you said earlier and just now. You're telling me to die alone. If anyone doesn't care, it's you. I never once said something hurtful like that. And she's like, you will die alone, because you can't even see what is in front of you. All you have left is your hollow adoration for your fans, because you just throw this one real thing away, just so you can look and comment on nude anime girls. To give context to this, obviously I have a lot of Gooner posts now, but back when this happened in 2022, 2021 and stuff, I didn't really post much content like that. And you want to know why? Because of her. I respected her boundaries. But me reviewing fan service anime made her upset. to give context. That's why she mentions that. If I reviewed fan service like anime and talked about it, she would get upset like I was cheating on her. That's how she felt about the situation. But one thing that really stings about this whole situation, she straight up said, I'm going to die alone. And then she basically says that the only thing I'll have left is my hollow adoration for you guys, the community, that has been with me thick and thin. So yeah. Now, let's talk about some other stuff, since we're on the business of really just getting my relationship out there in the public eye, which I don't like doing, but I have to defend myself when I literally see a Reddit post about this and multiple articles already created, and my harassers now using this as evidence to smear me. Obviously, I need to get in front of this and talk about it. The reason why I haven't talked about this until now, because honestly, despite obviously the despicable stuff that my ex has done, and there's a lot more abuse that I'm going to talk about, because at this point I might as well, I didn't want no harm or any harassment to come to her for obvious reasons, because that's just not how you handle something behind the scenes with a private relationship. It should remain private. You could talk about certain things in passing, but stuff like this should never be for the public. It shouldn't. I'm an anime and manga review channel, for fuck's sake. And I'm having to do this. I'm having to do so much this. I'm tired, man. I'm tired. Really tired. But basically, one of the reasons why I haven't commented on this for a while, and I knew about this post, is because at around the same time I was getting doxed, harassed, still am, technically. Trying to file a lawsuit right now and get funds for it. I didn't want her to get harassed and involved, because her name is obviously out there. With these individuals, these very sick and vile individuals targeting not just me, but my family members that are completely unevolved, like not involved with me at all, they would target her probably too. So obviously, I didn't want to comment on it to bring any attention to her, negative or positive. But she obviously is so vindictive and can't stand the fact that I'm moving on with my life that she has to do stuff like this. I also like the fact that the post she does here is to try to provide stuff with no evidence whatsoever, but also basically say she has a friend, a best friend that she's now with, basically, that was her backup, that she's known for a while, that she's now in a relationship with. It's like, oh, so you had this guy you already knew for a while that... Anyways, let's talk about some of the other stuff she did to me. Now, I don't have pictures for this one, because it was on phone calls. But I'm just going to talk about it. I'm going to be as transparent as possible. One of the last conversations me and her had, like, on call, there's two. One was her getting in a wreck in December of 2022. She called me. I asked, is she okay? Is she safe? Etc. We were already broke up for about a month and a half at that point. But she called me, and me being depressed and sad, I answered. Go figure. She tells me she got in a wreck. I'm asking, is she okay? You know, everything fine? She says she's fine and all that. She was with her mother. And I stayed on the phone. And I honestly didn't know what to do, what to say, because of everything that happened prior, which I'll talk about. But I stayed on the phone for obvious reasons, because it's what was right. I mean, she almost died, probably, so I was making sure she was okay. Anyways, she eventually hung up the phone, and that was the last thing she really ever messaged me. So, that was one. The second call prior to that happened in November 18th, 17th. The day she's talking about, actually. I was at Books A Million, actually. I think I might have made a video that day about Books A Million, or commented on a tweet that day for Books A Million. And if anyone wants to go through my tweets, he can. You can look up November 2022. I think I have tweets of me being at Books A Million. Could be wrong. Anyways, she called me, telling me that she was pregnant. Obviously, I said, are you sure? She's like, yes. And I'm like, how's the baby? Is it okay? You know, doing the proper things, what you should say, what you should do. And I was like, okay, what can we do for the child and all that, you know? I'm thinking of options, you know, for instance, like, how can we raise this child? What can we do now? For instance, Since obviously we're separated, I still want to take care of the child. I was willing to do what I could, even if I had to pay child support. Then, after all that, I'm assuming she was just gauging my expression, seeing what type of person I was. She then tells me I aborted it. Forgive me for that. She literally called me to say she was pregnant, and then when I started asking what to do, she said she aborted it. Do you realize how evil that is? Like, that is probably one of the most evil things you could do to someone. To give full disclosure here, I know I'm not perfect. I make a lot of mistakes. And posting what I'm talking about here is definitely going to have a lot of people not like me now. But I'm tired, man. I'm really tired of just like, if it's not harassers and doxers and it's my family slash ex, always just anyways, getting my composure back. Basically, she lied, or I don't know if she did, because it was on call, but she called me telling me she was pregnant, and then she had an abortion, apparently, in the same call, literally after she gauged my reaction, I'm assuming. And then, just to hurt me. To try to see if I was going to stay with her or not, and then she did that. I don't know. But it's very clear, just from what I have shown alone, and I definitely have more screenshots and different things if I go digging. She was not mentally okay. Like, there was a lot of issues, and she obviously had a bad past. I mean, she kind of hints at that in the messages I showed. But it still gives no excuse to the heinous and horrible actions she has done to me, and what she clearly is still doing to me. That doesn't even get into the other stuff. She, what really started the gradual drifting apart comes down to two different things. We were long distance. She lived in Canada, and I live in the United States. And when COVID hit, our relationship, started to get fractured. I mean, I think everybody can understand, long distance and COVID times. You borders shut down, can't go through, all the mask mandates, everything, you get the point. But that stretched an already stretched relationship. But what really, I think, did the nail in where I started drifting, and this was another call I had with her in 2021, and at the time, I should have listened to my best friends that I play games with, for context. I should have listened to their advice and been done at that point. But I am an individual that doesn't like to just throw things away. Like, sunk cost fallacy, I think that's the proper word. Despite all the toxicity and the manipulation, and obviously I showed examples of physical abuse, she called me one day because her brother apparently closed the door on her when she was home because she was carrying waters or something, and she, her brother didn't, open the door properly, and then just, closed the door on her. She got upset about that, so she called me to start venting, and then started basically saying she was gonna kill herself. Obviously, I take that very seriously. So, I said, hey, don't do this, you can't do that. I'm like, don't even do that. I'm like, I'm gonna get off the phone right now, and I'm gonna call your mom she can make sure you're okay. Because FYI, I'm sitting here in Tennessee, United States. She's in Canada, so I can't just physically go there instantly when the border is also shut down thanks to COVID. So, only thing I can do is to call the local police or her mom. So, I was about to hang up on her to call her mom because I was genuinely concerned. And she's like, if you hang up that phone right now, I'll be dead before you make that call. I stayed on the call, obviously, until she finally decided to end the call herself. And then I called my best friend, and I cried to him for about 2 hours. Not one of my favorite moments in life, I'll be honest with you. Probably one of the worst things I've ever went through. I'm not even gonna lie. But, anyways, she had multiple instances of abuse, mental, and then also physical. Obviously, a lot of this stuff happened on calls, so I can't just provide calls because I don't record that. I never expected to record that stuff. But all I'm saying about the situation is that I tried to follow her wishes, not make anything public. It's why I didn't talk about it ever. But she decided to do this. Alongside of everything else that's been going on with the harassment and all that, I obviously have to acknowledge this. I can't just let my character continuously get muddied and thrown into the dirt. I can't allow that. Especially when the accusations are completely false. To be completely blunt, was I perfect? No. I had moments where I probably said mean things. I admit that. I argued, obviously, like any toxic relationship would. I was not perfect by any means. I'm not trying to act like I was. But I find it crazy and odd how, even despite everything, she refuses to move on. It's been years. I'm now with a fiancé, about to get married to her, having a whole life with her, trying to get this lawsuit stuff under control and go after the people that's not just harassing me, but my family. And then she decides to do stuff like this. And I want to remind everybody when this post was made, was literally not, like, just a month later after the doxing. She knew. She stalks my stuff. She always stalked my likes, my comments, replies. She stalked it. So she knew. She made this to damage my character even more. But she also made this around the same time I was actively talking about my fiancé. With, like, the proposal to just, like, how we're spending time and I'm having a good time. I'm moving on with my life. And to give another bombshell drop, you remember how I was depressed in 2022, 2023? And I talked about it. I made videos on it. I think if you followed my channel, you know about this. I made a few vlogs talking about it. Had high blood pressure and everything. It's because of this. Because they're, trying to get over that whole situation. And I tried to move on. But every time I try to, someone wants to drag me back down into the dirt. I don't like making this public. I don't like talking about this. But it's got to be said. If you think less of me, anyone that's watching this far into the video, it's fine. I understand. But I feel like it's important to talk about it. I didn't want to. But it is the internet, especially when you're dealing with continuous harassment and doxers and people that put bounties on your heads and exes now trying to smear your name. It happens. People dig up anything to really try to just destroy someone. Thankfully, I have a very supportive fiancé that loves me a lot. Without her, I don't think I would be able to handle everything that continuously happens. I'm going to be blunt. But I can, thanks to her. And so I move forward. She's been very supportive of me. And the reason why I didn't address this on Valentine's Day, I think it goes unstated, but I think I should say it. I didn't want to post this video on Valentine's Day because anyways, I'm going to leave it at that. I don't really have much more to say. Obviously, there's more stuff I could show. I don't want to damage her character. I don't want to make her look terrible or anything like that. That's not my that's not my intention at all. But when you start doing this and you're accusing me, especially in an environment that obviously is very anti-me, you know what's going to happen. She knew. She knows. Because now this is being used as ammo against me, and you have people literally making news articles about it. Like, not a very flattering picture, though, by the way. Anyways, one last thing I will drop. And she's gonna probably, if she watches video, she will watch it. On her Instagram, she likes to talk about cheating and stuff. She posted a lot of explicit photos and everything on her Instagram, and was even selling pictures of herself. I didn't know about this until I investigated the Instagram and stuff, thanks to everything going on. But yeah, actively while we were together in 2021, 2022, she was selling sexualized photos. I'm not going to show those for obvious reasons, for TOS reasons, for YouTube, but she was. They're still up to this day. Probably if she watches this video, she will delete those. It's going to happen, but screenshots have been had. They're all there for proof and evidence. If I need them, I need them. I want this to be done. I don't wish her any ill harm or anything like that, but when you drag our past into the public eye, I gotta talk about it. Anyways, be safe, stay healthy. Chibi out.